Hey guys, welcome to Juicy Tea, where I read out the best stories on Reddit, so you don't have to. The funny, shocking, and satisfyingly juicy. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law that she needs to get over me being a cheerleader, and I had nothing to do with her bullying? Posted by AfterSir7147. This is very frustrating. I've been married to my wonderful husband, 29 male, for a few years. We started dating senior year of college. My high school had about 300 people in my grade. It was a surprise that we both went to the same high school since we ran in different circles. My issue is with his sister. She was bullied extremely badly by a cheerleader. This cheerleader was 2 years younger than me and on the same team. I had no idea and I wasn't even close to her. The cheerleading team had about 30 people on it. I was in no classes with her and never even saw her outside of practice. She made a huge deal when she first met me that her brother was betraying her for dating a person that didn't do anything. I explained that I was on the same team as her, but I didn't know. Doesn't matter, ever since she's been a royal bee to me. I announced my pregnancy to the family, and she made a comment that the poor kid is gonna have a bully as a mum. I lost it. I told her that I'm done. She needs to effing grow up about me being a cheerleader. I've done nothing wrong, and at this point, she's the bully. She called me a jerk. The family split on if I should apologize or not. You said it. She's the bully now. Down in the comments, Fibber Kitty made a good point. That sister-in-law can't differentiate between a high school bully and an unconnected person who happens to wear the same uniform. If you weren't the bully and didn't even see it happening, how is she blaming you for not stopping it? She may as well blame her brother, who also went to that school. Am I the a-hole for looking up public records to see why my husband's friend went to prison? Posted by Songbird Suki. I, 35 female, have been married to Jack, 35 male, for 9 years now. No kids. My husband reconnected with his childhood best friend Denver 5 years ago. He's a really nice guy, and I became really close friends with his wife Cassie. We all hang out weekly since they moved super close to us 3 years ago. A few years back, I remember asking my husband why he and Denver lost touch, since they got along so well. He kinda shrugged and said, "Oh, you know, life stuff." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I get it," and moved on. We invited Denver and Cassie to join us on a week-long camping trip. On the second night, we sat by the fire just talking and drinking beers. Denver made a really good meal for us out of just random snack food ingredients. I asked how he learned to make this, and he laughed and said, "Well, in prison, you learn to get pretty creative." I tried to hide my surprise, but obviously failed. Denver was confused and said, "What, you didn't know? I mean, I spent a majority of my 20s in prison." He looked at Jack and said, "Seriously, dude? You didn't tell her?" Jack just shrugged, and I was like, no, I didn't know, and tried to pivot the conversation. It was awkward for a split second, but we moved on. I assumed that Jack didn't tell me because he wanted to respect his friend's privacy. It happened in the past, and it's not my business. However, I'm not gonna lie, I got super curious and looked up his public records to see what happened. After, I was like, oh okay then, anyways, and didn't think about it or bring it up again for the rest of the trip. It wasn't until after the trip my husband asked me to be honest with him and asked if I looked up Denver's records. I shrugged and said, yeah, I did, but obviously it doesn't matter or change anything. Jack was visibly angry and asked why I didn't ask Denver myself. I was confused and was like, I didn't think you were supposed to ask stuff like that. He said, then wouldn't that give you a clue that maybe it's not okay to go poking your nose where it doesn't belong? I pointed out that Denver was actually surprised that I didn't know, so he clearly doesn't treat it like it's some huge secret. I assumed it wasn't a big deal since he mentioned it so casually. Also, I admitted I was just curious too. Jack then accused me of making a big deal out of it. I said, no, I'm not. To be honest, I don't even understand why we're even having a conversation about this. Jack then yelled at me to stop acting dense and I'm missing the point. I told him, if anything, he's the one making a huge deal out of it. I didn't even bring it up. He did. Plus, it's literally public information anyone can see anonymously. We went back and forth until I called a timeout. we both agreed to take some time to cool our heads and talk about it later. Honestly, I have no idea why he's getting so upset over this. Sure, curiosity killed the cat, but I kept it to myself. I didn't think to bring it up or make a conversation, even in private with my husband. Because, like I said, it doesn't matter to me. At the end of the day, it's not like he's a pedo or beats women, so who am I to judge? Just to clarify, since I'm sure the comments will suggest this, I am not, nor have I ever been, a gossip. Am I the a-hole? I was so confused, like, why is your husband so secretive and angry over this? Then I saw the first comment. It says, check your husband's record. Am I the a-hole for not putting away my nair in my shower while my sister's kids are here? Posted by NoTop267. My sister's family is staying with us because our brother is getting married. Obviously, they're using my bathroom while they're here. I keep a bowl of nair in my shower and my niece, age 6, used it as shampoo. She didn't know what it was, and the words hair removal are small to be fair, and she's not the best reader. She didn't have it in long enough to remove all of her hair, but it has a few patches missing. The hair that's still there is this awful texture and brittle. My sister is thinking they're gonna have to cut it off, and my niece is really upset because she doesn't want to lose her hair. She's meant to be the flower girl at the wedding, by the way. My sister says it's my fault and is really mad at me for leaving it in the shower in the reach of her children. She says I should have known better than to have stuff like this around when there's little kids around. I told her I don't know why she would think that when I don't have kids and haven't even watched kids before. She said it was obvious and I'm either an idiot or vindictive because I had to give up my room, which wasn't true. I didn't like having to give up my room, but I didn't try to make her daughter bald. I think no one sucks here, it just sucks in general. That poor girl. And is it obvious? Honestly, I wouldn't have thought of things like nair if I had little kids over. I feel like the responsibility really is on the parents to make sure the environment is safe. But yeah, I wouldn't even blame them. A bowl of hair removal really doesn't stand out as something dangerous, so I wouldn't blame them if they missed it too. Sometimes sucky things just happen, and no one really is to blame. Hopefully you guys can go wig shopping and find her something really nice for the wedding. Perhaps a pretty colour that she doesn't usually get to dye her hair, so she feels excited about this instead of sad. Am I the a-hole for refusing to get married without a prenup? Posted by Danny People. I, 29 male, proposed to my fiancée, 27 female, a few months ago. We'd taken a trip to Italy and I proposed over a romantic dinner. Call it cheesy, but she loved it and gave me an enthusiastic yes. Ever since we returned home, she's been absolutely obsessed with planning every single detail, sometimes to the extent of calling me when I'm at work to confirm colours or styles of certain decor. I work in tech, it's a pretty well-known company and my job pays decently. My girlfriend works in retail. Obviously, she doesn't make as much money as me, but I don't mind financially supporting her. About a week ago, we were enjoying a nice dinner that she'd cooked. We'd both had a long day and wanted some time to relax. While talking at the table, my fiancé brings up the legal details of our wedding. I listen and nod as she speaks, occasionally cutting in to ask a question or give input. Towards the end of our discussion, I made a comment about prenups. Something along the lines of, I think we should file for a prenup at the same time as we're filing for our license. As soon as I finished saying this, I could see my fiancé's stomach drop. Her entire demeanour changed, and she had an expression somewhere between anger and hurt. She explained that we didn't need a prenup, and quote, it's just pointless. She expressed that she planned on staying married forever, so a prenup wouldn't matter anyway. I said that having a prenup would just make me feel more comfortable, and that it was just a precaution. She seemed visibly upset by this and countered with, do you not trust me? I explained that it had nothing to do with trust. It was simply about having it in place in the event if something were to happen. She snapped, saying I was being unreasonable, and that if I didn't trust her to just say so. I raised my voice and said, I do trust you. I just want the prenup as a safety measure since I make more than you. She looked shocked and said nothing, but I kept going. A prenup makes me more comfortable. If you don't want to sign one, then that's fine, but I can't get married without it. She stormed off, walking out the front door with her keys in her hand. I heard the car start and rushed out, but she'd already left before I could stop her. I've been texting and calling. No response. The only sort of contact I've received was a message from her mother explaining that she'd be staying with her until things cooled down. I feel bad for what I said, and I do regret the way I acted. However, I don't feel like my request was too much. So, am I the a-hole? Update. It's been about a day since the initial post. I still haven't heard anything from my fiancé. I've considered going to her mother's house, but that feels like an overstep. I don't want to shake things up while they're still tense. For everyone asking, I own the house we currently live in. I own my own car and she owns hers. I pay over 50% of the bills, which I don't mind because I understand that she doesn't make as much as I do. We also don't plan on having kids. It's just not a goal of ours. I've taken some time to reflect on the whole event and I'm still not sure if I'm completely at fault. I want to stay with this amazing woman and I definitely should have mentioned a prenup prior. I figured since we see eye to eye on pretty much everything, we'd see eye to eye on this as well. Obviously, that wasn't the case. I agree with what JSin1701 says down in the comments. I definitely agree that he should be protecting his assets, but I could also see someone like him having a very one-sided prenup. Assets acquired during marriage are marital property. If she ends up being a stay-at-home mum, she shouldn't be completely screwed. He seems more concerned with protecting himself and not concerned about her needs at all. A prenup needs to take both people into account. Yeah, I agree. If she quits work and spends a decade raising kids and doing household chores, the funds should be split equally, as she's contributed equally. Just because they don't plan for kids doesn't mean they won't happen. Also, it kinda sounds like things are already leaning in that direction. He pays more towards the bills, and after they've both had a long day at work, she cooks them dinner. I actually do think he's the a-hole here. Not because he wants a prenup, but because he specifically said he wants a prenup because he makes more than her, not that he has more than her. He's not trying to protect assets that he already had coming into the marriage. He's trying to protect the money he earns while married, and while she's contributing more in other ways, like housework, which she can't reclaim in the event of a divorce. Remember, I post new content every day, so subscribe for more juicy tea.